Yeah, and let's shift to your assumptions for your gross margin. And then you were developing the prototype. So I'm sure you started developing a sense of how much the product is going to cost. But walk us through a little more.
Yeah, I mean, very quickly when we started developing the tech, we had a sense of kind of what components were going to be needed, and kind of very quickly priced it out. So today, if we make, say, one device, literally one device, buy one of everything that's inside of there, we're looking at around $100. But like with anything that's some injection molded plastic parts and some PCBs and silicon inside there, these things scale incredibly well. So when we started looking at that margin, as the years go on, we expect that to become higher.
And you probably can also call up suppliers of these parts and say, well, now I'm ordering 10. What if I order 100? What if I order 1,000 or even 10,000? How much will the price come down, right?
And that's exactly what we did. So, I mean, literally a few months into this, to get a sense, we had a prototype and sent to our local electronic supplier a spreadsheet and said, okay, give me some gauge if I were to make 10 of these today, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, what this would look like. And that's where you really see things starting to scale well.
Yeah. And Bill, the next one that needs to be discussed, because profit is straightforward and the sum of profits is also straightforward because you just set up, is the cost of capital. We assumed here that the startup is risky, and that's not a knock on the startup. Startups are risky. But just walk us through what are the key risks, what are the categories of risks, and so what risks you need to be addressing to decrease your cost of capital as you go forward.
So as you go forward, you have a risk that people will buy your product, that's market risk. You have technology risk, and you have execution risk. So what you're trying to do is de-risk all those things so that you know your technology works, you know your market is real by customers buying it, and you know that this team can execute against that. And then people will start to de-risk it, and their cost of capital will come down. But on the other hand, you still don't have assets, and you still are not liquid. It's not like you can publicly trade stock in Humon. So their cost of capital is still going to stay high, but the power, with this model, you see that cost of capital, bringing that down is very, very much in your interest, because now all these out-year stuff is worth more that you can bring in, and that's cash in your pocket to keep the business going. So there's not much you can do about 50% up front. You got to use that for this calculation, but over time you understand how important that is, and it's very much in your interest as an entrepreneur to drive that down by de-risking the business.
And also, in your case, whether it's 50% or 60% or 40% now, it won't make or break your business, right? That you're just using something in the ballpark and moving on.
Exactly, that's what we do, right? And we know that cost of capital is going to decrease year after year, but we assume it's going to stay constant at roughly 50% because that's good enough for us to get an indication of what the LTV will be, and that's just what we need.